Welcome to 5 and 5 from the one-stop co-op shop, where I discuss 5 key elements of a game in about 5 minutes. I'm Michael Kelly, and today I'm talking about Merchants of the Dark Road from Elf Creek Games. And a quick disclaimer that I was sent a review copy of this one. Merchants of the Dark Road is a 1 to 4 player competitive Euro-economic game. I'll be focusing mainly on the solo play. Is that Dark Road worth traveling? Let's find out and get to the list. At number 5, with a mix, I'm looking at the accessibility of the game, the ease of play and teaching. And on the positive side for this one, the play, especially for solo, is ridiculously quick. The game plays out over 13 rounds, but especially when playing solo, your turns and the Automa turns for a given round are very short. And the core of the game, when you really get down to it, is pretty straightforward. You're getting goods and you either sell them to heroes for money or travel and deliver them to towns for prestige, and the lower one of those two is your score, and that's about it. But the negative side of the accessibility is that the game feels large and sometimes overcomplicated, not necessarily for a good reason. You've got these different action spaces, which really tend to do very basic things. Most of them just get you items, get you goods to sell and trade. But you have, for example, 3 different varieties of spinners or rondellish kind of things that get you goods and services in different ways. So what could be a pretty straightforward experience ends up feeling a bit more cumbersome to teach than you might expect. Number 4 is also a mix for me, and it's one of the core mechanics of the game, which is traveling to outlying towns. The basic idea is, as I said, you sell goods to heroes, then they kind of join your wagon, and you can also pick up these commissions, which say that you have to deliver certain goods to a certain town. You get to decide which way you want to travel with more or less risk. You flip over a card, you roll some dice, you get bonuses or penalties, and then you deliver your stuff and get the rewards. And on the positive side, there is a nice satisfaction to a good travel where you build up a whole bunch of stuff and then get a ton of rewards from fulfilling all of them. Also, traveling provides the main interaction between players in the game, whether it's the AI or actual players, because you can tag along with each other. You can actually buy stuff to kind of leech off of their travel actions. But on the negative side, the randomness of the card flip, the randomness of the dice, and how those go can make it feel a bit frustrating, especially for those who are randomness averse. And also, while it does go quicker once everyone knows the rules, this is certainly the longest and slowest portion of the game, which tends to kind of make the overall pace of the game slow down from those very, very quick turns I mentioned earlier. And number 3, another mix, 3 in a row, and that's looking at the Automa itself, the AI player you play against in solo. And on the positive side, their turns are incredibly quick. You just flip over a card, it says where they go, what bonus they get, and it has a very, very basic little flowchart of which action they take. And also on the positive, because they travel and because they pick up things that they want to deliver in their travels, they still maintain the main interaction point between players. But on the negative side, because the Automa is very dumb and doesn't really know what it's doing, and none of the flowcharts take into account whether its money or its prestige is higher, which again I mentioned, the lower of those becomes your score, you can have very swingy results in their performance. Sometimes they do really well because they keep their scores balanced, but I've had games where one of them was like 20 points lower than the other, and they became trivial to beat, which makes the solo experience not nearly as tense overall. But finally, we're going up to a full-on pro for my number 2, and that's the core action, dice mechanic, and traveling around the board. So in basic terms, you have some night dice on the bottom of your board, and then you have these locked spots, and what you do on your turn is you push one night die up, and that'll both push one of the dice in your lock spots up, which will give you your movement for the round, but it also gives you a bonus depending on whether you pushed up a die in the left, the middle, or the right. And then the movement will take you around the board, giving you access to different actions, and all of this is kind of the main decision point of your turn in the game, and I also find it the most interesting. The combination of the bonuses you get from what you push, and also deciding not only which action space you want to go on this turn, but kind of seeing what your movement options will be for future turns based on the dice you have locked, and trying to kind of plan out how you might want to do things. I find that all very engrossing, very interesting, and it certainly gives the game its best strategic feel overall. But I'm back down to a mix for my number 1, and that's looking at the variety and longevity of the game. So in Merchants of the Dark Road, you do have some random elements in each game. You have a steed that gives you a different ongoing power. You have different buildings that are placed around the board. And of course, you have different heroes coming out and different contracts and different prices for items. So that all works pretty well, especially the steeds gives you some little thing that you're better at to kind of push you in a certain direction each time you play. But with all that being said, and all the different action spaces and all the different buildings, there aren't that many levers and knobs and different mechanics in this game. There aren't really any different paths to victory. As much as I like the fact that your lower score out of money and prestige is your final score, it also kind of limits your options because you need to do a little bit of everything. You need to sell to heroes. You need to travel to get your score to be the same. So as much as I like the variety that comes from some of the options in the game, I found what I'm actually doing tends to be very samey game to game. So overall, I can recommend Merchants of the Dark Road to fans of economic Euro games who don't worry too much about theme, especially those who are looking for a solo game with a very quick and simple Automa, not much to run or worry about, and who want a quick playing game. This one fits all of those. But if you're looking for a more varied Euro experience that really gives you majorly different strategies each time, or if you're looking for a Euro with very low luck, this one has a fair amount of randomness. You might want to use caution here. And if you want to see a full solo playthrough and witness the game in action, click the link that just popped up. Good gaming, and I'll see you at the next stop.